Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the I Love Wrestling podcast. I'm your host, as always, Justin Woolwine, and today we are welcomed with the Wildcat, Chris Harris. How are we doing, man?
I'm good, Justin. I'm excited for this. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's something that if I want to be completely transparent with you, since I started the podcast, you were one of the guys that I put on my imaginary list to get on here. I've been a big fan of yours and James Storm my entire life. Actually, one of the main reasons I fell in love with TNA so young was that cage match, which I'm
Uh,
sure we'll dive into. But that hooked me, so I'm really excited for this one, man.
oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'm glad I was part of hooking you into the world of wrestling.
Of course. Just before we dive into your career, your love for professional wrestling, would you like to shout out your social medias, your podcast, and other places where fans can see the latest Chris Harris news?
All right, let's see if I can remember this stuff. My I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My Twitter is at AMW Wildcat. Instagram at AMW Wildcat Chris Harris. And yeah, I'm excited. I just launched my own podcast. We wrapped up the first episode last week and shoot another one this week. It's called Tag It In with Chris Harris, uh, with my host Aaron Gregory. And I know we got a YouTube channel. I haven't figured out all the how to get it out there yet. He's Aaron's pretty much taking care of that. So I'll get the wording down from him at here at some point. And um, but yeah, if everybody could be on the lookout for that and check out that first episode. And we got another one coming up. We're going to have it's probably going to be one of the first ones. Most podcasts I talk about my career, but this will be one of the first ones where I actually talk about current stuff.
Okay.
And so I think people might see a different side of me, which means they may not agree with a lot of what I have to say. So, but yeah, we're going to have guests. We're going to have fan interaction with questions. So, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Justin. Appreciate it.
Of course. Just out of curiosity, I'll start there. I had a question about the podcast, anyways. I'm just curious, with all the wrestling media, all the wrestling podcasts, what sparked your interest and the idea to start your own?
I actually been thinking about it for it's probably been a couple years now. Just the fact that podcasts are obviously have been very popular over, gosh, I don't know, maybe 10 years now. They've just gotten very popular. A lot of guys have tried it. Um, One of the reasons I stayed away from it was, the guys I was listening to, because I listened to a lot of them. They were the top guys, the top stars, and giving their opinion. Which even guys like me, I would always listen to their opinion because I respect them. They were there, they did it. And so there was a side of me that was like, what? Why would people care about my opinion? I'm very happy and with everything I did in my career. I'm very satisfied, but there's still those, I mean, the negativity's out there. So a lot of people be like, what? Why would they care about my opinion? But the little that I have done, whether it's either podcast or just interaction with fans, they kind of changed my mind to where they did appreciate my opinion. And there, and one thing you got to accept when you get in this world is there's always going to be haters. So I'm just going to try to have some fun with it. Yeah, it took me a while. I wasn't sure of who to do it with, and Aaron Gregory, he's from the UK. Um, we we hooked up, and it was just a good pairing. And yeah, we're still new at it. We still got a lot to do, but um, he had some really great ideas coming at the podcast, and I was throwing in some of mine, and I think we're just gonna run with it, have some fun with it, and not have a lot of expectations. Not We have goals, but we're just gonna have fun with it and see where it goes. And the support has been just in a week's time has been really good. So I am excited on where we can go, but yeah, it seemed to be a good pairing and matchup, and I needed somebody to do the grunt work because you can put my face on camera, but I don't know all the interactions that you guys do in there. Um, so I needed somebody to do that, and he's done a great job. So even just in the week's time, I've noticed he's put out little clips, which is what I see of other podcasts, little clips of somebody saying something, and you get a lot of opinions on that. And I thought, oh, okay, yeah, I did talk about that. I did say that, and and then I'll read some of the comments, and most are pretty good. Most are very positive, but there's still those negatives. And I find myself, if I'm on my phone, I'll find myself to where I'm like, well, here I got to reply to that, and then I'm thinking, don't engage, just
Yes,
don't
sir.
engage. That's the hardest part. So I just leave it alone. Even though there may be some negative comments out there, everybody has their opinion, and I just gotta I gotta accept that it's gonna be there. So, but no, man, I'm looking forward to it. We're excited about it. We already have some guests lined up that I think people are gonna enjoy, and um, yeah, it's a different world, but we're gonna see where it goes. So hopefully everybody tunes in and is very interested to see that.
Absolutely. I know, personally speaking, I'm already excited. Like, I felt like for a while there, you pop up and then we wouldn't hear anything. You'd pop up, you wouldn't hear anything. So I'm excited to get more Wildcat more frequently. Just personally speaking, I want to welcome you firsthand to the podcast community, and let's see where this ride takes you.
Ah, yeah, thank you, man.
But something I am very curious. I mean, we call it the I Love Wrestling podcast. We talk about this with every guest every time we get somebody on here. We all have a story for when we found professional wrestling or when we fell in love with it. What's yours?
Well, long before you were born. um, Yeah, my first introduction to pro wrestling was I'd have to say in '86. Um, See, I'm from the 1900s, so but it was '86, and it was Saturday morning wrestling back then. It was more of a Saturday and Sunday watching it, and while a lot of kids were watching cartoons, I started watching Saturday morning wrestling, and I kind of got hooked. I don't remember a lot of like the stories that were going on. It was just interesting to me at the time, and I'd have to say it was probably towards the end of '86 because when I really started getting hooked was the beginning of '87 for the buildup of WrestleMania 3. And I started seeing the Hogan Andre stuff, and it was pulling me in. It was intriguing me, and so WrestleMania 3, I think, is what solidified it for me. When I saw that event, I saw how big it was. And this, at least of my generation, this is a very common answer. I know a lot of guys have said this before, but it's the truth with me that the Randy Savage Ricky Steamboat match at WrestleMania 3, uh, I became a Macho Man fan. He was like my guy growing up that I liked to watch. Like I wasn't a Hogan guy, I wasn't a Warrior guy, I was a Macho Man guy. And that match, just the crowd reaction and the just everything that went in that match, it was just such a great match. And I was pulled in, and I got him. I got just like we're supposed to pull your emotions into it. And that match in WrestleMania 3, I was hooked from then on, and I never stopped watching it after that. So that's really what pulled me in was that, and I can't say that's at that point that's what I knew what I wanted to do, but I was definitely hooked as a fan.
So, do you remember what hooked you and made you want to do it? Like, usually guys have a story of maybe this situation happened or something takes place usually, and there's a pivotal moment in your guys' lives that makes you realize maybe I want to get on the other side of the barricade. Was that the case for you?
I'd say it couldn't have been long after that because I see '87. I was in high school, so my friends and I, we would all get together and have matches. Like we would actually start wrestling, and I'm not just saying just roughhousing in a living room. I mean, we would build a ring, and they, I guess it's still called the backyard wrestling, but although backyard wrestling has gotten a different name nowadays, we weren't dumb enough to use all the weapons of that. We just actually had wrestling matches, ring music, and the referees and everything. So we started doing our own thing, and I was, at least I thought I was pretty good at it. Of course, everybody's going to think they're good at it at that point, but I was writing stories. I mean, I was, before I even was smarting up to the business, I was thinking of different angles and stories and things like that. And so I was just so intrigued by it. I mean, I can remember sitting in school and just I'm passing trivia questions to my buddy while we're supposed to be paying attention to the teacher. And it just started to kind of consume me. And after high school, I went to college because that was what you're supposed to do. But I really had no huge interest. I mean, I had a couple majors, but nothing. It was more or less that's what you're supposed to do. Pro wrestling was just completely out there, and like saying you're going to become an actor or musician or something like that. Just in my normal family, it was just way out there for something to do. But I spent a couple years in college, and during that whole time, I was still dabbing with the idea like this is something I may want to get into. And even though it's not what you're supposed to do, it's where my heart was taking me. And after a couple of years, that's when I finally got to the point where I'm like, look, if I'm going to do this thing, I got to do it now. I can't waste any more time. So I left college after a couple of years and started searching for a training school. I'm in the Cincinnati area, and I found a training school which was actually about 4 hours away, and but it was reputable. It was a reputable high school or training school. So I looked into it, and once I found that, man, I just started finding every which way to make sure that I could do that, and rest it took off from there.
Definitely. So I know, like doing research, I was really surprised, and I didn't realize this because, as I told you before we got on here, I found you in TNA. So I was really shocked to see that you actually had a little stint in WCW. When did the opportunity to work with WCW come about, and what were some of your favorite moments that you have from your time with the World Championship Wrestling?
So after training, I I found a promotion in the Cincinnati area that I'm still attached to today. A lot of guys have come out of that school, that promotion, and I did the Indies for about 4 or 5 years. Um, so I actually got my start in '94,
Okay.
and about 5 years I did the Indies, just making a name for myself, and word of mouth, you make your contacts, things like that. Well, I wound up making a contact with the Nashville area, which is really big in wrestling. And I started going down there and, traveling down there every week, still based out of Cincinnati, and started wrestling in Nashville and wrestling for a promoter by the name of Burt Prentice. Very big name in the area. And he was good friends with Terry Taylor, who was doing the for WCW. It was the talent relations,
Okay.
and so this was at the end of '99, and we all know that 2000 was the pretty much the hell year of WCW. That's when things have already started to come apart, but it started really falling apart in
Yeah.
2000. But somebody like me, I mean, I didn't care at the time. I mean, I grew up where the big two were WWF and WCW, so that was your goal, to make it to one of those two, because those are the big promotions. You can become a star, you can make some money. So uh, at the time, they were looking for to bring in security team, and Terry got a hold of Bert, and Bert sent some of his guys, and so there was a group of us that would go in to WCW, and uh, so for the big shows like Nitro and Thunder, and pay-per-views, we would do security.
Okay.
And when I say security, I mean like we're guys that got in, and if somebody needed to take a bump or get beat up, we were those guys.
Yeah.
Um, but WCW also at that time had two other programs: WCW Saturday Night, which has been around for years, the 605 Saturday Night show, and they also had a Sunday Worldwide show.
Mm.
And those are the two where they would highlight one of the stars, and they would have the enhancement matches with the other guys. And that's where they started putting me on there. They started putting me in a lot of matches. My very first match was with Booker T,
Nice.
and I know that they were very happy with my matches. I was getting matches pretty much every week, just getting different experience, getting to work with a lot of guys. And when I say enhancement matches, I did some uh, years prior, like with WWF, and that's that's the WWF matches are more what I would call the squash matches, where you barely got anything in.
Hmm.
Um, uh, but with the WCW matches, even though we're there to highlight the talent, the star talent, uh, it was competitive matches. These guys were really giving us something, so it gave us a chance to actually show what we could do, and uh, so that was really nice. And but yeah, my first match was with Booker T. Loved working with Booker. Got to work with him again later on in TNA. But yeah, so that's really where it took off, and then we started doing um, the R&B security. I know a lot of people probably don't remember that, but when Russo and Bischoff were in charge on camera, they kind of came up with their own team, the R&B security, Russo and Bischoff security team. So we did a lot of those. I got to know a lot of the guys in the locker room, hung out with a few of them. But some of the matches that I was having, I got to work with Booker, Shane Douglas, Curt Hennig, um, yeah, just a number of guys in there that I got to learn from. I mean, it was just a pleasure to be able to work with those guys, and um, I did a lot of tag matches. Uh, Now you asked about a highlight. I mean, so getting to work with those guys was already a highlight, but what a lot of people remember, and it definitely was probably the biggest highlight, was Halloween Havoc in 2000, when I was an imposter Sting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that or if you've seen that or
I've
not,
seen
but
it. Yeah.
um, so yeah, they had a little program with Sting and Jeff Jarrett, and it was Halloween, so Jeff's just background plan was to have a bunch of Stings coming after Sting, and different versions. You had the Surfer Sting, and you had the NWO Red and Black Sting, and so I was the Crow Sting. They picked me up. First off, by that point I was they were very happy with what I was doing. I think they were looking to do something with me, um, but also I had a very good resemblance to that Crow Sting, because
Okay.
even though Sting's hair was a little shorter at that point, I had the long hair like he had during the Crow days, and we had similar body types. We had about the same height, so there was just a lot of similarities, and he was actually the one that painted up my face. And I can remember when he was doing that, he looked at me. He's like, "Man, it's just like looking in a mirror." And because I had my hair down, and it just yeah, it was just really cool to be able to work with Sting, um, and I was the Sting out of all of them that actually got to do a lot with him. Like uh, I was the one that came from. I busted out of the canvas from underneath the ring, um, and pulled him underneath the ring with me. Then he knocked the hell out of me, and we came out, and he threw me out of the ring. But then I came back, and I actually hit him with Jeff's guitar. So that was probably the biggest highlight. Now I did Sting several other times. A lot of people just remember that one. I did Sting a few other times too. I was in the rafters. I was in a coffin as Sting. So there were other times too, but that was probably the biggest highlight. So yeah, my WCW was um, It was really good. I mean, I was tasting it. I was tasting it. I can remember the times that I was doing security that, I was watching all these big stars go out on Nitro and Thunder, and I just remember thinking to myself, man, I belong there. I don't belong here in the security. I belong there. And so it just, but as a young guy, that's what you want. You want that desire to fight to get to that spot. And that's kind of what that was showing me. I was seeing how the big time was working, although I was not aware of what was going on behind the scenes. I was low on the totem pole,
Yeah.
so we didn't really know a lot of what was going on. But I was just happy to be there. And then October of 2000 is when I signed my contract. They offered me a contract. I signed a contract, and I think they were looking to do something. But we were I think 6 months away from falling apart. And then once they were bought, it was kind of like for guys like me, it was like I finally signed a contract with one of the big two, and the unthinkable, like who would have ever thought one would go away? So it was kind of crazy. So a huge letdown at the very end, but I'm so thankful that I had the experience I did with WCW.
What did your frame of mind look like after WCW closed its doors in 2001?
Well, it was very, sad, frustrated. It was like just another door slammed in your face that you felt like you were making it. But there I hit the indies again. Started doing that. Like with the WWE, they we all kind of know this system now. The higher ups stayed on their contract, got paid, uh, and then they took a lot of the more mid card guys. The WWF WWE took them in, and then a lot of the other guys. I think some of them went to developmental, but guys like on my level, we were just let go. And so yeah, I mean, you can just wallow in it, or I just tried to go back out. And yeah, it was a big blow, especially financially, because I was making good money with WCW, even at my spot. Um, but I started hitting it again, man, and I started working a lot back in Nashville. I felt like Bert had helped me a lot, so I wanted to be loyal to him. So I was working a lot in Nashville and just hitting the roads, man. And there were a couple, being that WWE was the only thing in town. There were other promotions trying to get kicked off, trying to get off the ground. Um, none of them stuck, but it was always that, hey, this is going to happen. We're excited about this one happen and that would happen, and then just something would happen to where it never went into anything. So that was pretty much the year of 2001 and beginning of 2002, and then that's when we started hearing rumblings of another promotion trying to start up. And once again, it was like you it's hard not to get excited, but then on the other hand, there's been so many letdowns. So, but once I heard, because I'd known Jeff, I'd gotten to know Jeff, I'd met Jeff and talked with Jeff in WCW. I don't even want to say I got to know him yet, but knowing that Jeff Jarrett was involved, his dad Jerry, who has a great reputation of running wrestling organizations, and then he was bringing in a lot of WCW names, which obviously he had connections with. So, this was something different where it was like, okay, something might be able to happen here. And, and yeah, so when we all heard about that, it was like, oh, let's try to get in here.
So if I read this correctly, you kind of got your tryout for TNA with your eventual tag partner James Storm. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it's become known that it was a tryout, although I don't know if it was that at the time.
Okay.
So it was a Burt Prentice show. He was putting on one of his bigger shows of the year, and it just happened to be around. It was on June 1st, which TNA started June 19th, of that year. So they were getting ready to launch. TNA was getting ready to launch, and they chose. Jeff's from the Nashville area, as most of us know. So they decided to use Bert's show as kind of a. I guess that would be what I would call the tryout for TNA. They had their broadcast team there. Jeremy Borash, who was doing interviews and things like that, he was in there. So they were kind of testing a lot of things. And but yes, sure, wrestling shows going on. So why wouldn't you be scouting talent? And Storm was another guy that had gone in for security and had some matches with WCW. So I'd known Storm for a while, and it's on Bert's platform, Storm and I had this whole feud going, and this was kind of the culmination of us. So we had our own story going, and so for Bert, uh, it was his top two guys. He wanted to put them out there. So for Bert's fans, it was a huge match, and but we also knew that hey, TNA is going to be there and they're scouting talent, so we were going to go out there and just, I mean, do everything we could to steal the show, to show our talent, and hopefully we're going to be watching. And so that's what we did, man. We went out there, and still to this day, after all these years, it's probably one of my favorite matches that I've ever had, just because of the storytelling that was in it and everything that went into it. Uh, Storm and I, we really, I'm very proud of that match. And so we came back, and the crowd reaction was there. We came back, and the way I've always told it, I came back, and I couldn't help but kind of look over at Jeff, just for anything, man. Just did he watch it? What was going on, and I've gotten to know Jeff over the years, very close with him, but so this makes sense. But Jeff just kind of looked at me and he winked at me and he said, "We'll be in touch." And I was like, that's all I needed right there, man. That's all I needed. And within a few days, uh, Bob Ryder got in touch with us and signed us to contracts. And Bob Ryder, a lot of people don't realize the importance of him. He worked behind the scenes, so many don't know that name or knew of everything that he did. But Bob, Jerry, and Jeff were the three that really came up with the idea of TNA. And Bob worked with TNA all up until his death. So Bob did so much for TNA that he doesn't get the recognition for it. And Storm and I became very good friends with Bob over the years. And but Bob is the one that he signed us to our contract for the first show. And Bob was also the guy that threw out the idea of, hey, put these two together.
As we record this, February 10th, it's an important day in wrestling history. We lost a key member of the community, Mr. Perfect, Curt Hennig, who you had a relationship with, a close relationship with. I just want to know whether it was at WCW, his time in TNA, where did the foundation of that relationship come from? What were some of the key points or advice that he was able to give you that maybe you held on to throughout your career? And yeah, just run us through what it was like working with him.
Yeah, thank you, Justin, for bringing that up.
Of course.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have a match with Mr. Perfect in WCW, and just working with the guy, you can't help but learn from him. But I did get close with him in WCW. There was after WCW was sold, one of the promotions that I had spoke of earlier that didn't make it. There was one that I was a part of, and uh, Curt Hennig was a part of as well. They tried to sign a few big names to help the promotion get off the ground. And it was in that promotion that we spent some time together. We had a chance to spend some time together and really hang out and had a good time and just got to know him. So I just thought that was so cool because he was one of the guys that I watched growing up, and for this guy to take his time and out of his day to be hanging out with me, it made me feel like he saw something in me. We actually got to wrestle each other again in that promotion, which actually took place at the ECW arena in Philly. So
That's cool.
I got to wrestle Curt Hennig in Philly, and boy, that crowd. They did not like me at all. They were pro Mr. Perfect. So that what even just hooking for the perfect plex, they went nuts.
I love it.
So that was real fun. So got to work with him again, and then uh, I want to say we stayed in contact, but it wasn't until he came to TNA and right after the company started in 2002. When I found out he was coming in, I was so excited. I got to see my friend again, and once again we just started hanging out. Many shows and many nights in Nashville, and we would hang out, and we'd go out after the shows, and I'd be able to just hang with the guy, and I was having such a good time, but I was also learning from him. Um, so yeah, we got very close there the last couple years of his life, and um, it was just yeah, just it just meant so much to me that a guy like this was taking his time and giving me advice. I mean, there was times where we'd get to the building on show days, and I'd go looking for Curt. As soon as I got there, I'd say hi to everybody, and I'd go looking for Curt. We'd just pull up two chairs and just start BSing and just talking. And there was a lot of advice. I mean, there's so much stuff that stuck with me, but sometimes it's the small things. Like he was one of the guys that kind of taught me, which I feel like I already knew this, but maybe I didn't. I just can't remember. But it has stuck with me since he said it, and it's show up looking professional. And sometimes you just get so relaxed in your environment. If you've worked for a company for so long or something like that. But he said, just every once in a while, even if it is like look, for TNA, for example, we're there every week or filming or every other week, and um, it's not like you have to do it all the time, but once in a while, just show up and dress up just to show professionalism. And that's something I've tried because I'm in. I do a lot of coaching now, and that's one of the things I try to tell the guys. Yeah, you're when you're paying your dues, you show up to the events, and a lot of these guys they're helping put the ring up and doing a lot of grunt work, and you don't want to do that in a nice outfit. Um, but I always encourage them, if we're going someplace new and we're about to see a new building owner, or maybe we're working with a sponsor,
Yeah.
some kind of sponsor, that's the time that where we all need to show up looking our best to represent the company the best you can, and so things like that really stuck with me to where I passed that on too. And another thing he said to me, that let's see, this was 2002. So we're still in the era of Austin and everybody, the language was a little bit, was a little bit more acceptable then. And Curt was one of those guys that said, you can in promos, you can get your point across without, cussing. And it's not like this guy was a goody goody or anything like that. He was just making the point that, it works for Austin, but that doesn't mean we all have to go out there and, we all want to say we're going to, whoop your ass or something like that. It's you could get your point across just as intense, without feeling like you have to use the language, and that kind of stuck with me. It's like okay, and maybe there's a time that it's called for, but for the most part, your intensity is what really drives the fans in. It's not because you throw a word in there or something. So but anyway, yeah, he meant a lot to me. His death was shocking, and um, yeah, I mean, I think of him every time this around this time, and over the years, I've gotten close with his son Joe, who most wrestling fans would know as Curtis Axel.
Yeah.
I've gotten close with him over the years. But the year I spent in WWE, uh, he was in developmental, and
Nice.
so when I found that out, I went right up to him and introduced myself and kind of told him the story. And so he was just he loved hearing. He gave me stories about his dad. I gave him stories about hanging out with him, and we just kind of hit it off. And then over the past couple of years, um, over social media, I've been in touch with his widow, Lenise Hennig, and so we've been in contact and passing messages back and forth. And she's just a wonderful lady and thanks me for always keeping his memory alive. And I'm always trying to reach out to her for obviously this date, but even birthdays or something like that. So um, yeah, just somebody that meant a lot to me that we've lost. I mean, we've lost a lot of them, but he was one that really stood out to me, and so I always try to keep that memory alive and try to keep passing on some things I learned from him.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that we was able to shed some light on it, and talk about it, because sometimes I feel like, especially when it comes to death, people try to avoid it, and sometimes it's nice to just remember and celebrate what they've done in their career, what they've done in their lives, the memories we have. Like for instance, some people know this, some people don't. I was one of Sabu's last interviews before he passed, before he did the stuff with GCW. So, um, when Sabu passed, I remember watching him as a kid, and I met him like when I was a little kid at like IWA East Coast shows in West Virginia, because that's where I'm originally from. And so
Okay.
like getting to see him on he was my first probably big interview with Sabu, and then a couple months later passing, it's definitely like bittersweet having the interaction. But shedding the light on it and talking about it is it's nice. It feels good.
Yeah. Oh, that had to be a huge thing for you to be able to interview Sabu. And
It really was. He messaged me, funny story, I guess, just segue. He messaged me at like 11 o'clock at night, and he was like, I have to fly out somewhere in like 2 hours. Can we do it now? And I actually didn't, know how it worked or anything, and I didn't have any research done, but I was like, sure, whatever you got, we got on. No research, which I know enough about Sabu to where we carried a 40 some minute conversation. But looking back, I can definitely tell at the beginning of it, I'm very nervous, scrambling to trying to like figure out a good way to structure a podcast. And I think he could tell, so he's kind of picking on me a little bit, but it was a great experience. So like I said, it's just fun to be able to show some positivity with it.
oh, that's really cool, man. Great. I'm glad you had that experience.
When we first got on here, I told you about the love of mine for TNA kind of came through your match with fellow tag team partner James Storm. You took on Triple X. First, I want to know what brought together AMW. You know, where'd the idea come for America's Most Wanted? I know you guys look very similar, so I'm gonna guess that's probably the first piece. But walk us through the put together of America's Most Wanted.
It's funny you say we look similar because I think part of the reason it worked so well is because we were so different.
Okay.
Um, uh, but yeah, tag team partners for some reason, as they journey on, they start to resemble each other a lot. So I could definitely see it. No, there's plenty of matches that I've watched where I'm like, is that me or Storm?
I love
So
it.
I get it. So yeah, it was early. It was the first show because we did the first pay per view and we actually filmed the second pay per view. We taped it that night. Um, so the first one, Storm was on a tag match. I was in the Gauntlet for the Gold, uh, which is like a Royal Rumble, and but for the second one, I here's how I've come to think it went down. I don't, I've never been really. This has never been really confirmed, but so they had their established stars, which they actually have to really push to get the attention of the fans, get the fan base in. So you have to push your stars, um, and but they also have to have homegrown stars. Um, AJ Styles was definitely at the top of that list, but I feel like whether it's Jeff or Bob or whoever was helping write at the time. I know Dutch Mantel was there. Vince Russo was in and out, but anyway, I feel like that they knew they wanted to do something with us. They signed us to contracts. They knew they wanted to do something. They just didn't know what. And if we were singles, I feel like we could have easily been lost in the shuffle. So I think it was Bob was the one that kind of went to him and said, "Hey, what would happen if we just put them together? Let's just see what happens." And which I don't think that's uncommon for a lot of guys. If they don't really have a lot of direction in a company, sometimes they just get paired up because you can get much more notice as a tag team sometimes than you can in singles. So they put us together that second event, and we even filmed something in the back to where it was like they filmed Storm and I leaving the building, and they said, "No, some other guys pulled out of a match. We need you guys to hit the ring right now." And we're like, "Okay." So we wrestled our first match. We wrestled jeans because it was on the spot, and we won that match, and everybody seemed to be happy with that, and kept us together, and the fans were just they really were into us. I'm sure it had a lot to do with because once we started filming in uh, the asylum in Nashville, those people had seen Storm and I, so you know, we already kind of had a fan base, so I think that definitely helped. But everybody was really into us, and Storm and I kind of looked at it like, hey, we were our goal was to work singles, but if this is what the company gave us, if this is the opportunity they're giving us, then we're going to take it. And if you want us to be a tag team, that's fine. We're going to be the best tag team you got then. And that's kind of the attitude Storm and I had with it. We were like, we were such great opponents. We had really good chemistry. We'd beaten the hell out of each other so many times that we thought, what the hell? Let's see what we can do with this. And so we went out there and we kind of had the same mentality with that. We were just going to do whatever we could to be the best. And Storm came up, or a lot of the same years that I did watching, where we watched a lot of the '80s tag teams and early '90s, and the Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, the Horsemen, um, the Bulldogs, the Hart Foundation. Just we loved that kind of tag team wrestling, so we would watch that, and whatever was working, we would apply that to us. And if you could think back to '02, '03, those early years, with WWE being the only game in town, and they have never been a real, other than those '80s and early '90s, they've never been big on tag teams,
Yeah.
and so their tag team division just wasn't good at all. They had a pattern of putting two singles guys together, letting them having them have a run with the titles, and then they'd split them up right away and feud, and there was just not much to it. And I think that's what was missing in tag team wrestling, and we were kind of missing the whole art of tag team wrestling. There's a whole art that goes into it, and so Storm and I, going back to what we had learned watching those teams growing up, that's what we applied. And so I think because it worked back then, why wouldn't it work now? People start really getting into tag team matches and seeing how exciting they could be. And I think that's really what helped us get the boost that we did in the wrestling world, is because nobody had seen a tag team like this in a while. Now, I do want to give credit, like whether it was '99, 2000. I think that teams like the Dudleys and Hardys, Edge and Christian, they definitely uh, brought back tag team wrestling and put it back on the map in so many ways during those years. But just a few short years later, they were all doing programs where they were splitting up. So um, once again, we were at a loss of tag teams. So I think that's really what helped make us work. And yeah, we went on and just did everything we could just to be the best out there.
So you spoke about like watching older teams, and we talked about you watching WCW and WWF growing up. How did it feel when you and Storm together finally became the NWA Tag Team Champions?
Yeah, the prestige that goes into those titles, man, that was um, we started looking back at pictures of guys like the Rock and Rolls and Arn and Tully when they had these exact belts that we have, and it just yeah, that was huge to us, because even that first run, we knew we were in the record books. Now we were in the record books with some of those those famous teams, and nobody could ever take that away from us. So we were very proud of that. Felt like we had accomplished something, especially with the multiple reigns. Each time it's just become more important. So um, yeah, that made us feel like we were doing something right, and being able to look at pictures of us holding those belts. And look, and I still today I look back and if I see some old pictures of some of those other teams with those belts, I'm like, man, that's the exact belt that I held too, and it's just a pretty cool feeling. So yeah, we felt like we were doing something right, man.
So earlier, obviously, I brought up the Triple X match, the Triple X rivalry that you had with Daniels, Elix Skipper, and Low Key. Um, Obviously, for all TNA fans and wrestling fans, it's probably one of our favorite moments ever in TNA history. I just want to, what are your thoughts on the whole rivalry between America's Most Wanted and Triple X and how iconic it would ultimately become in TNA's history?
Yeah, so the rivalry is definitely one of my favorites in TNA. It started back in the Asylum days, though, and because of the cage match you're talking about, a lot of people forget that we had a
Yes.
cage match with them before, and uh, but a lot of that program, I don't know. There's a part of me that feels like it wasn't like it was like wasn't a blood feud until that cage match. Like it was more on just really good wrestling matches. Chris Daniels, one of the best. Elix Skipper had come into his own. He was incredible with some of the moves he could do. Low key was their high flyer. He could run around the ring. He was so intense. Man, you talk about a guy that's intense. Um, and so with any combination of them, we were having really good matches. I think there was even one time we had a best of it was either a best of 5 or best of 7
Yeah.
kind of series. And but yeah, it would culminate with the cage match in the Asylum, and that one was a four-sided cage. And yeah, we just that was such an incredible match, and we felt like we'd really done something there, and um, you know spilled a lot of blood in that match. And uh, so I felt like even at that point we had really made a mark, with that feud and with that match. And then you kind of fast forward to we're down in the impact zone, and we're getting TV deals, and it kind of got reignited again. So we started another program, and it was one of those where you have to up the stakes a little bit. Now we got a six-sided ring, so it became the Six Sides of Steel, which I thought was a beautiful name for it. Um, and we had to up the stakes, and so that was the match where the losing team had to disbar. And for the four of us, I know we kind of looked at it like, man, how do you top what we did? And it's so hard to do that. And rather than say, yeah, we're going to top it, and we're going to do what we have to do, we looked at it like, let's put our minds together. Let's not worry about trying to top it. Let's just do everything we can do to make this match great. Um, because there's still a lot we could do, and so that's what we did. We went out there, and we didn't try to stress about trying to top the other match. We just went out and had the best match we could, and turns out that that's the one that people remember. Now I know that majority of the reason people remember that is because of the insane Eel Skipper walking the cage,
Yeah.
which I completely get. But the match itself was really good. We had a great story in there, with the handcuffs, and but yeah, it kind of culminated into that. And wow, man! So you talk about a really intense blood feud, and and then to top it all off with the walking of the cage. And for years I liked the joke because you know I, it's a little different now. We talk about it now, but for years it was just about that walk, and I would always run around thinking, hey, does anybody remember who took that bump up there, who came from the top of the cage, and I was like, Elix gets all the credit for all that, and so I would laugh about that because I was the one that fell that from that. So, um, but yeah, just that was incredible, and the fact that we pulled that off, so much could have gone wrong, but both Elix and I were safe, and came out. I mean, we all came out hurting after that, but yeah, it definitely made a mark on TNA history.
It's really cool just like looking back at it. And I know like growing up I probably didn't appreciate as much. It was just the spots and the fight. But like now, even like recently just going back and watching it, looking at all the stakes that go into it, you put a team separation on the line. And then you watch the psychology throughout the match. It really looks like you guys are fighting for your lives. And I think that was the most intriguing part of the whole story was just how much you guys fought to stay together. Really brought all the emotion into it. And then you add the handcuffs and the crazy cage, Hurricane Rana. It's a wild match and experience. I can only imagine what it was like to be in the impact zone when that happened. So it's just truly a moment in time that I don't think will ever be forgotten by any means. Uh, Something I'm very curious on. Not too long after that, at the start of like '07, you would go singles, and for me, it felt like America's Most Wanted was just then getting the recognition that they had fought so hard for. So, what went into the decision for you guys to split up, and for you and Storm to go your separate ways?
Yeah, it was definitely a difficult decision. You could look at it two ways. We could have definitely stayed together, and I felt like there's still more we could have done. Um, but also on our end, being that we were together since '02, we had a good, I guess, about 5 year run, and that was a long time at that point for tag teams because, like I said, within a year, two singles guys being thrown together, having a tag team title run, and then feuding all within a year. So for us, that we had a really good run. We had a good span of a heel run in there too. So we were heels for part of that time, and yeah, I guess what a lot of people don't know is there were a few attempts to for us to split through those years, even as early as probably '03. Um, they had brought up an idea of splitting us, and Storm and I kind of through our what we were thinking, just saying, hey, of course we'll do whatever they want. We'll do what we're told to do, but we just felt like there was so much left in America's Most Wanted that we could do, and thank God it never happened. Every time the idea was brought up, we it was passed off, and but yeah, when it came to, I think it was like the very end of '06 into '07. um, I think Storm and I both thought, their tag team thing was awesome, and we definitely made a mark. But we were both still interested in what we could do in singles, and so yeah, that's kind of what went into that. The company was on board with it, and we were okay with it, and so that's the direction we went. And so yeah, '07 was a lot of me trying to you know give me the confidence back that I could be a single star in TNA as well.
With James Storm, right after you guys would do the split, you guys would go right into a kind of short rivalry, but a memorable one nonetheless. You had the steel cage match, which some look back on fondly, others not so fondly. But then you guys had that Texas death match as well, which was actually insane. Watching it as a kid, one of my favorite matches of both yourself and Storms, if I can say that. What was your favorite part of the rivalry, and how did you feel at the end of it when it was all culminated?
Well, my favorite, uh, definitely the Texas Death Match. I think people remember that just like they do the Six Sides of Steel.
Yes.
You mentioned the first match we had. I think you said steel cage match. You meant the blindfold match, right?
Yeah, wasn't it in a cage? Or am I
Oh,
wrong?
you're right. Gosh, I can't believe I.
Yeah, cause wasn't it at
I
lockdown
had
with the mat with the
yeah,
blindfolds? Yeah.
I had blindfold on my mind, but you're right. It was a
Uh,
cage match. I guess since we couldn't see,
you didn't even realize
we
there was a
never
cage there.
we never cage. My bad. You're right. Yeah, I thought we did. I thought it was really good. It may have felt short, but a lot of people forget the few months leading into it where Wildcat had to wear an eye patch everywhere he went.
Yeah.
So I actually didn't wrestle for a while, and we did a lot of you know I did a lot of chasing him, and so there wasn't a whole lot of matches, but the program was still there, and we were trying to build up the intensity. Um, yeah, I'll just touch on the blindfold match real quick because the way I try to explain it to people is anytime you do I mean, it's wrestling 101. You do a blind angle, it tends to, hey, it makes sense to go to a blindfold match. Now, I will say, Vince Russo was the writer, but I don't want to put a lot of blame on him, even though the people did. I don't want to put a lot of blame on him because that's just what makes sense is the build
Yeah.
towards a blindfold match. So I understood why we did it. Now, of course, the match itself, there was a lot of disasters. I mean, the cage was not the. I mean, there was problems with the cage. There was problems with our hoods. I mean, it was a disaster all around. But I think the reason that people were so down on it is because the the way the feud had built and the intensity we were putting in this, and me just wanting to get my hands on Storm, they wanted to see that fierce blood feud and us just tear each other apart. And you don't get that in a blindfold match. You're basically chasing each other around. And so when they weren't getting that, I think that's when they were like, wait a minute, this is our first Storm Harris match and we're getting this. So the fans really, well, they shit on it. I mean, they did not like it. And we took a lot of criticism for that as well as Vince. But but I think, yeah, I think we made more than made up for it once we built towards the Texas Death Match, and that was one of those matches where Storm and I knew we were going to go out there and I mean, it had to be real. We had to make we had to make it believable, and so we went out there. We beat the shit out of each other. I mean, there was no other way to do it, and I thought it was an incredible match. I thought it made sense. We put everything we had into that, and that's what I think. That's why the people remember that because we gave them exactly what they wanted. We beat the hell out of each other. I mean, there was a lot of blood spilled in that match, and just that was really the culmination. So, yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorite parts of TNA. Even though I came out of there, battered, and it was probably one of the uh, most intense, most violent matches I've ever been in. It was still not only my favorite part of our feud, but probably one of my favorite parts of TNA.
Definitely. All right, I'm gonna ask you one more question because recently in wrestling, you guys, America's Most Wanted has made another reunited, and you've actually become the ALW Tag Team Champions. Just I'm curious, how did the idea come about? Did you shoot the idea? Did Storm shoot the idea? Was it the promotion's idea? And kind of what can the fans expect out of you guys for this latest run as tag team champions?
Yeah, who'd have thought 2026,
I
America's
love it.
Most Wanted Tag Team Champions. Yeah, man, it's exciting because I can't believe how I guess the word public, how big it's become from promotion in Florida.
Yep.
Uh, what a lot of people don't realize, just to give some little history here, like over the years, I'd say over the last probably 5 6 years, Storm and I have done we have gotten back together on occasion And it didn't start out as necessarily as matches. We would just start doing appearances. Conventions are big nowadays, so we would do conventions together. We would do autograph signings together. Occasionally, if everything worked out right, we would do a match together. So it's not like it's the first match we've had together in all these years, but we would reunite periodically, and people would promotions would build it as America's Most Wanted reuniting. Um, and Storm and I, of course, have kept in touch. Uh, but yeah, so this one promotion out of Florida, Atomic Legacy Wrestling, and it's actually one of my. I've only been there once, but I've been to plenty of independent promotions, and that's exactly what they are. Is independent promotions. Just I could point a lot of wrongs out to them. But these guys, they really have their stuff together. They got a great team, um, great production team, and great staff, and they just really do it up well for a independent promotion. And so they reached out and started talking about, hey, had this idea of bringing you and Storm in together, and first we got to work out dates because Storm's very busy. Uh, he still wrestles, but he is very much part of. He's getting into acting,
Yeah, he's an
and
actor now.
yeah, and he's done a lot of good stuff with that, but that takes up a lot of his time. And if he's on a shoot, he's there for a certain amount of weeks, so it's really hard to nail him down for bookings. So, but this guy worked out. I was free. He was free. This guy was going to bring us in, and so we were like, cool. And that's kind of how it started there. It was just another booking. And, we talked about the wrestling part. And, when it comes to the wrestling, like I'm one of those that I never, I don't think you should ever say retire in wrestling. I think it's been proven more times than not that wrestlers don't retire until they're forced to retire.
Definitely.
So I never say retire. I've had so many people tell me that, oh, you were retired or you came out of retirement or something. I've never said that. So, um, and I probably never will because you never say never in wrestling. Uh, but I do try to stay away from like a singles match just because I am older. I'm very limited. I have a lot of injuries. There's even health issues, so I feel more comfortable if I'm in there with Storm than if I was in there with something else. So with anybody else, and so we worked everything out to where we're going to come and do that, and we get down there, and all of a sudden, well, we knew it was for the championship, but we didn't know if this was going to be a reoccurring thing. So it turns out we came out as the champions, and which means we're going to be coming back to defend it. So we were very excited about it. We had a great time together as always, and and walked out with the titles. And it kind of got the buzz of wrestling. A lot of people have been asking me about it, and so I think that's cool, man. The more we can get it out there that's going on, and like I said, I can't put this promotion over enough. Atomic Legacy Wrestling, they're doing some great things down there in Florida. Uh, I think we have a few return dates down there, and it's in different cities. So we're looking forward to going back. But yeah, who'd have thought? I mean, reuniting and teaming, or reuniting and doing an autograph signing, that's one thing. But to actually be champions and being able to carry the titles for a company together, it's pretty cool. They had pointed out to me and Storm. I'm not sure if we even knew it, but I guess '06, so 20 years ago, that was actually our last TNA tag team title run.
Oh shit.
So it had been 20 years since, a tag team championship. So who'd have thought, man, 20 years later, here we are. So we'll have some fun with this, see where it goes.
That's fantastic. I believe yesterday uh afternoon I was looking at their Instagram page, and I believe it's been announced that you guys are going to be taking on Mosh and Thrash, the Headbangers, defending the tag titles. Have you guys ever faced the Headbangers before?
Never faced them. This will be the first time.
That's crazy too.
I I've met them at autograph signings,
Yeah.
But no, we've never faced each other, never had the opportunity. So yeah, our first title defense will be against none other than the Headbangers.
I like it. I know I said last question on the last one, but talks of
All right.
retirement got me. I want to ask one more question, and I have to ask it due to recent news. I saw your reaction to the Rumble. You watched AJ Styles' retirement from WWE. For one, what did you think of how it went out? What did you think of AJ not putting the gloves down? And do you think we see the phenomenal AJ Styles in one more match, two more matches?
Well, my opinion is I think he's done in WWE.
Okay,
AJ is a stand up guy. He's true to his word. So I believe that he's done in WWE. Now, keep in mind that that means matches. So he could obviously make appearances,
yeah,
which I think everybody would love.
absolutely.
I think the whole glove thing, I think that intrigues us. We're all trying to figure that out. What does that mean? But that's what I love about it is that we don't know. Now, my opinion is I've been asked this before, and I go to it all depends on what the wording has been leading up to that match. I can't remember exactly if he said retire from WWE, retire from wrestling. So if they worded it to where it's like I'm retiring from WWE, I definitely think that door is open for AJ to do some more.
Definitely.
And in my opinion, I don't think there's any other promotion that he belongs in other than TNA.
100%.
And the fact that WWE and TNA have their working relationship, it's perfect. WWE, I think, would give their blessing because
Absolutely.
we know many guys have retired from WWE and gone on and unretired everywhere else. So um, he may want to do something in Japan. He was a big star there. I think I saw somewhere where people had talked him going to AEW. I don't even think that's on the table. I don't care how much money Tony Khan would offer him. I don't think, like I said, it's all the man that AJ is, and AJ
Yes.
would not. I just don't think AJ would do that. Um, but I think the bottom line is AJ chose this year because I don't think he's lost the love of wrestling. I think he's tired. He's been going strong for a lot of years, and
Absolutely.
I think he wants to spend more time with his wife. I think he wants to spend some time with his kids. So I think that's probably what he's doing right now. He's having some family time. He's taking some rest. But the thing is, he retired in January from WWE. So that leaves the rest of the year that, maybe after a few months of being at home, he's going to get that itch. And he already was there at the debut episode on AMC for TNA.
Yep.
So, and I don't know how many people picked up on it. I sure did, but because I love the nostalgia, but the little background or backstage skit they did with Frankie Kazarian and AJ, just when AJ looked down at his shoulder and looked at that title, that said everything to me, man.
Yes.
There's always those little things you got to pick up on because I don't think they'd have done that for no reason.
No.
Now we know Frankie isn't the champion now, but that still doesn't mean that we wouldn't love to see a Frankie Kazarian AJ Styles match. I mean that takes you back to at least from what I know, '02. Now those guys have been friends for years, so it could have they could have been friends longer than that. But the matches we saw 25 years ago, we could see another one. I just think it would be awesome. Frankie can still go like you
No
would never
other.
know. I mean, he still looks like '02. And AJ, we see him when he's on, he's on. He could still get out there and do it. So I would love to see a match between the two of them. So that's my opinion. I feel like he's done in WWE, uh, but I think the potential of him to do something with something like TNA, I think is there, and I think we would all love to see it. And the thing is, I don't. That's why I say the wording. I don't think AJ would go back on his word
No.
if he said, I'm retiring from WWE because that leaves it open in TNA. So I don't think he'll ever do a full time schedule anywhere,
No.
but to be able to do some appearances and matches in TNA, I think there's a definite possibility for that.
Definitely. Uh, Wildcat, first and foremost, I want to say thank you. Absolute privilege to get you on here. Everybody, go check out Tagging with Chris Harris. Chris Harris's new podcast. Go make sure to check it out. Go check him out on social media. Pay attention to this ALW Tag Team title reign, the reunion or the return of America's Most Wanted. I know that's something I've wanted, so I'm glad we get to see it in 2026. If I have to say, I got plenty of questions to ask you still. So if a part two is on the table, I'd love to have you back, man.
Absolutely, Rudy. Oh, I'm sorry. I had to
You had
throw
to
that
throw
in
it in
there.
there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I had to get it on the podcast, man. I thought you did awesome, man. I can't wait to see how where you take this, your podcast. But yeah, you remind me so much, man, of our old TNA referee, Rudy Charles. I think now me saying that, people are going to look at it
Nah,
like, oh
I'm gonna get
yeah,
the comments.
yeah. So anybody that's not familiar with him, that is Mr. Dan Angler of WWE referees. So um, yeah, he's one of my favorite guys, and you remind me a lot of him. And I'm telling you, man, the you guys got
This
the
that's right
the mon-
here.
the money maker.
Okay.
Very very similar. So, but no, man, this was awesome. I would definitely be in for a part two, bro. I had a great time talking with you, and hopefully the fans enjoyed it. And yeah, we could definitely. I'm sure there's more we could talk about.
Absolutely. With that said, I'm just gonna leave this simply at see you next time.